Hey new bodies, I'm here to do a video by request. So I want to talk about something that one of our Facebook fans asked for. This comes from Sam Empey, who wants to know more about the different ways that you can go about weight training and really getting into what you do on what days and the different approaches, because there's actually quite a few out there that have different reasons why you do them, specifically targeted for different kinds of results. So Sam, thanks for the great idea for a podcast. Let's jump into it. So this information comes from the National Academy of Sports Medicine. That's who I have my personal training certification from. And essentially there are 8 approaches that they discuss in their materials, and that's what I want to go over today. So 8 ways that you can go about figuring out how to lift weights most effectively for your body. And I'm going to talk about a concept that's based around the maximum amount of weight that you can put up for a given exercise. There's 2 ways you can go about figuring that out. One is you have a friend spot you and you try to do 1 repetition of the most weight you can possibly do. It can be slightly dangerous, and of course if you do, let's say you bench press 200 pounds and you could do more, but actually doing that 200 pounds tires you out so much that you can't actually get a good read of what your real maximum is. Maybe let's say you can go up to 210, but you think if you didn't do the 200 you could have done more than 210. It gets a little bit dicey in figuring out what your exact maximum is. So there's actually a great alternative way of doing it where you don't even necessarily need a spotter to help you. It's still a good idea to have one, especially as you get higher up in the reps. But this is the repetition maximum methodology. And essentially you take a weight that you can do more than once typically, and you do it until you can't do it anymore. So whatever exercise you're doing, let's say you're bench pressing, and let's say you pick 100 pounds, you do as many reps at 100 pounds as you can do, and this is where it's good to have a spotter, because as you get towards the end you can get fatigued. And you stop counting the reps when your form fails. So on the bench press, if you're really crooked, or you're hyperextending your back, really arching it, or you're using momentum to get the weight up, those don't count. But this is real movement, real motion that you are doing in a quality way. So if you take 100 pounds, for example, let's say you can do that 10 times. By the conversion table, that means your maximum is 133 pounds. So your bench max would be 133 pounds. That's going to be a good number to keep in mind, because you'll see I start to talk about doing things with a certain percentage of your maximum weight. So I've got a great conversion table from the National Academy of Sports Medicine that you can get at newbodies/RM, and that'll take you to the PDF that you can view right online or download and reference later on. And this applies to any exercise. You'll basically see a weight down the left-hand side, a number of repetitions across the top, and you sort of find that intersection. So you'll see where you do 100 pounds 10 times, it means you can do 133 pounds max. And it only talks about 10 as the number of reps on the high end. So if you picked a weight that you can do 20 times, you're not going to find a conversion in the table. Pick a tougher weight, something that you can do fewer than that many times. But ultimately, it has to be 10 or fewer times to find the conversion in the table. So repetitions of your maximum, use that approach to more safely and accurately figure out your max for any given exercise. So as I said, there's 8 approaches to weightlifting, or ways to design a weightlifting routine. And this isn't about what exercises to pick specifically. That's really a different type of issue that I'm happy to get into if someone wants to, either individually through our coaching services or personal training services, or if people are really curious, we can talk about, for specific parts of your body, what might be good exercises to consider. Even in a podcast, we can go over that. But what I want to talk about is sort of designs for a program holistically. And the 8 are really split up into sort of 2 or 3 major themes. So there's the general use, for those who just sort of want to lift weights and tone up a bit more. There's a couple of approaches that work really well for people who are trying to bulk up more specifically, so for bodybuilders or for people in sports that mass really matters, like football or hockey. And then there's also a methodology that has a couple of approaches for those who want to tone up but also want to involve the cardio aspect. And that might be people who are just looking to be fit all around but want to have more sort of explosive power to be reactive and quick and nimble. And that's great for athletes as well, like a soccer player or someone who wants to run, where you're not looking to bulk up, you're looking for that power, your muscle strength, to be able to sort of keep you going and involve your heart as well. It's another way to get a cardio workout without necessarily sitting on a cardio machine or standing on a cardio machine, like an elliptical or a bike. So let's start with the most basic approach, and this is an all-around sort of way of doing things, a little bit slanted towards the bodybuilder side, but not completely. And it's at a very basic level, it's the single set method. So this single set method, as its name implies, is one set, and a set is a group of repetitions, or reps. You'll hear people talk about reps. So a rep is the complete movement of an exercise. So if you're going to curl, a rep is down and up, that's a rep. And a set is a group of reps. So you have one set, and the single set method says you do 8 to 12. So one set, 8 to 12 times, so 8 to 12 repetitions, typically you're going to be going for about between 60 and 70% of your maximum. So again, that RM table can really help you figure out what weight you should use. Let's say it predicts that your maximum in curling is 100 pounds. Just say that would mean you want to work at sort of 60, 65, 70 pounds in that area. And the key here is to be nice and slow. For the single set method, it's not about speed, it's about counting slowly and evenly and consistently. So each one of those 8 to 12 reps needs to be nice and consistent. And you may find that 60 to 70% is too tough for you. Better to back down closer to 55, 60% than to push yourself too hard and at the end start to be using your back or the momentum or changing your speed or being crooked. Form really matters, especially with the single set, because you only get one set to get it right. So you want that benefit to really play through, and that takes being careful and having your form right. No hyperextending the back, really in any exercise. That's never the right answer. Don't use momentum. Again, that's never advantageous in any exercise because you're not building your muscle. Gravity's doing the work for you, or kinetic energy is doing the work for you, not you. So that's the single set method. The next step from that, sort of a logical next step, is the multiple set method. And as the name implies, this is about, instead of one set, you have 4 to 6 sets. And I would actually recommend you do 5 or 6 and use the first 2 as warm-up sets. And for those sets, you're going to do sort of 10 to 15, try to get on the higher side, so maybe 14 to 16 reps at about 50% of your max. So in that 100-pound example, you'd be working at 50 pounds. And if these numbers are scaring you, I'm just using it for easy math. Please don't think that if you can't do 100 pounds or you can't do 50 pounds that there's something wrong with you. It's perfectly fine. Just simplifying the math for the sake of the example. But you want those first 2 sets to be easier for you. It's really about just getting the motion down, getting your joints nice and loose and warmed up, getting your muscles warmed up, getting your muscle memory set in place so that when you come to the higher weight, you can really perform better. And when you do get past those warm-up reps, or warm-up sets rather, you're going to be working in 8 to 12 reps, and you want to get up to about 60-65% of your max. If you can take more weight, that's great. But you also want to keep in mind, as you perform and as you do this over time, your max will increase, so you will need to raise your weight that you're taking. And you can retest your max if you want, or you can just say, this feels too easy, let me add 5 pounds. And you can sort of do it by feel. But just bear that in mind. Over the course of a few weeks, you're going to start to notice that as you get fitter, stronger, you can take some more weight. It takes about 12 weeks until you really find a noticeable strength increase. But you'll probably start to see results sooner than that, and maybe around 6 weeks you may need to add at least 5 pounds, depending how much you're taking in the first place. Maybe it's 2 pounds or 2.5 pounds. If you're lifting 10 pounds, adding 5 is far too big of a leap, most likely. But gauge it, see if it's too easy, and be honest with yourself, because if you're doing the exercise without the right resistance, either too much or too little, too much does matter, you're not going to be getting the results you need. So if you take too little, you're not going to be expanding your muscles' abilities, so your effort will sort of be wasted. And if you put on too much, your form's probably going to suffer, and you may hurt yourself. Either by your bad form, you could hurt a different muscle, or just overtaxing your muscle, you could strain it. So be careful, listen to your body, push yourself when you can push, but also know that just throwing on more weight, it's not going to get you results faster. Well, it will, but not the results you want. It'll probably result in an ER visit or having to stop lifting for a couple months or something. So multiple sets, 4 to 6 sets, first 2 warm up, and then the last 4 or so are for 8 to 12 reps at 60-65% of your maximum to get that improvement in your muscle performance. And again, it's not speed. It's never about speed, but you don't have to be quite as slow and calculated as you would with the single set method. You can move a bit more freely. So that's multiple sets. The next is incredibly common, and it's the pyramid approach. And you can do this either as a pyramid like this, or as sort of an upside down or inverted pyramid or funnel. And it's essentially, its shape comes from the number of repetitions in each set. So as you go up in weight, you go down in reps. So it's fewer reps at the top, more reps at the bottom, less weight at the top, more weight. Less weight at the bottom, more weight at the top. And the inverse would be the other way around, where you start with few reps, high weight, and you work your way up to more reps, low weight. I tend to work with a regular, normal-looking pyramid, not the inverted pyramid. And you would do your first set, and you'd have about, again, 4 to 6 sets total. You do your first set at a sort of warm-up weight, so somewhere around 50% of your max, and you're going to do anywhere from 15 to 20 of them. So you may even want to come down to 45% of your max. The point is to get that good volume in there. And by the 20th, you should definitely feel it. But it shouldn't be to the point that you're, holding your breath and straining and, arching your back and leaning in funny ways. It should be manageable. The next set, you're going to take it down from the sort of 20 reps down to more like 14 to 16 or 12 to 16, and try to push yourself on the higher end of that. You're going to step the weight up from about 50% to about 60%. The next set, you want to get in the 8 to 12 range, and you work at 65 to 70%. The next set, you're going to work in the sort of 4 to 8 reps, and you can be about 80% of your max. And the last set, you really should only be able to do 1 or 2 of these, so you need to pick a high weight, 90-95% of your maximum, and do 1 to 2. Now you're going to be tired, so doing it at 90% of your max, you may only be able to do 1 rep. That's fine. That doesn't mean that your max has come down. It's because you've done 5 other sets of multiple reps of multiple different weights. The pyramid approach can be used on its own, so you do 1 exercise like curling and you just do the pyramid and then you move on to something else. You take a break between each set, or you can mix in multiple exercises that you're doing in a pyramid fashion. So you can curl, and then you can go do the leg press, and you can do a squat, and you can do tricep pull downs and come back to curling and sort of rotate it around like that. So that's the pyramid approach. And again, you can do it as a build-up, or starting heavy and few up to light and many. The next 2 are really more geared towards people who are trying to put on mass. So people who are trying to bulk up, bodybuilders, football players, etc. People where mass matters. So obviously bodybuilders, that is the point, to really grow your muscle size and bulk up. But in some sports, that bulk is really crucial as well. So the two approaches I want to talk about here are, first of all, the superset, which is really popular for bodybuilders. And there's 2 different ways you can do a superset. There's the first is essentially thinking of it as working one muscle and then working the opposing muscle, or moving to the opposing muscle group. So you work your chest, say the bench press, and then you immediately, with very little rest, if any, move to a back exercise. So you go from one to the other, and the point is you're sort of bracing. So you might do a quad exercise and then immediately go to a hamstring exercise. So you do the front and the back, or one muscle and its opposing muscle. So the bicep and then the tricep right afterward. And you do these 1 to 2 sets, higher weight, fewer reps. So you're really pushing them hard. And it allows you to focus on an area of your body and make sure that you also have balance. So you're not just doing your chest, but you're working your chest muscles, but then you're also working your back muscles. So everything stays in balance. So if you overwork your chest, your body will sort of pull in. If you overwork your back, it'll pull back. So you're doing these heavier workouts on muscles that oppose each other and actually work together. So one is the antagonist of the other. The other is called the split set. And the split set is basically similar to the superset, but it's where you're going to split your body into sections that you work on given days. So you'll hear some people in the gym maybe talking about, oh, it's my back day or it's my leg day. And what this is you pick a group of muscles that you're going to work exclusively on that day. Really common, for example, is Monday and Thursday, you'll do chest, you'll do shoulders, and you'll do triceps. And then Tuesday and Friday, notice we take Wednesday off for recovery, do backs, biceps, and legs. So again, this is really focused to people who are trying to bulk up, but they focus on one area of their body and they hit it hard with many exercises, weightlifting specifically, high weight, sort of medium to low number of reps, anywhere from 4 to maybe 8 reps, and 1 to 3 sets. But that is the split set approach. It's where you only work on a certain muscle group on a certain day, and you give yourself a break in between those days so that your muscles can recover. So if you didn't know, bodybuilding, muscle growth comes from making micro tears in your muscle, and as it heals back stronger. So you don't want to overwork a muscle, you want to give it time to recover so that you can actually get that strength increase. Otherwise it just stays with those micro tears all the time, never actually gets stronger. So you do the Monday, Thursday for the same muscle, or Tuesday, Friday, and that muscle gets 2 days off, and your whole body gets a day off from weightlifting on Wednesday. And the weekends are different. The weekends you're not doing anything, but you're giving yourself a chance to recover. And that's really crucial if you're trying to put on mass. You must give those muscles a chance to come back. So that's split sets. So again, for the bodybuilders, you've got supersets and split sets. And supersets, there's 2 different ways of looking at it. There's the opposing, or you can sort of look at it almost like a superset, where you're focusing on one area and you hit it really hard and you move on to a different area. And it's really, to me, it's another way of talking about split sets or split days, split workouts, because you're going to hammer on, say, your bicep on Monday and Thursday, but it's not necessarily talking about the opposing muscle, which is the tricep. So I personally would recommend doing the supersets that focus on one and the other, so the agonist and antagonist, the prime mover and its opposing muscle. But either way, splitting things up over days is a really good idea to make sure that you get that good recovery in so your muscles can grow. So we've talked about the general ones, the single, the multi, and the pyramid. We've talked about the ones that are more geared towards the bodybuilders or those who need mass in their sport, the split set and the superset. And then I want to talk about the ones that are going to be more for someone where speed and agility really needs to come in, and where you want to bring your heart rate into it and have good cardiorespiratory build in addition to muscles. And it's not about bulking up, it's about your total body. And that is starting with the circuit approach, which is something you've probably heard about. But circuit training, really popular in gyms, there's usually classes you can sign up where essentially they move from machine to machine. You do a set at a machine and you move right to the next machine, and there's basically no rest in between. It's just how long it takes you to get from the butterfly machine to the leg press machine or whatever it might be. And you're going to do usually 8 to 12 reps, 65% or so of your max, just the same sort of pairing up you've heard about before with the pyramid and with the multi-set and the single set days. When you get to 8 to 12, you're sort of thinking 65%-ish of your max. So same story here. You can do the exercise and you immediately go on to the next stage in the circuit. And typically the circuits aren't set up to work the same muscle back to back, because that muscle is going to be too tired out, and that can get dangerous. So you may work the same muscle more than once, but you're going to do it with some other exercises in between. So you might have a curling station, and then maybe a lat pull down station and a leg extension station, and then squatting, and then tricep extensions, and then back to the bicep. And you probably do 2 to 3 rotations depending on the programming, but it's fast moving. There aren't really breaks in between, and not fast moving in the sense of using momentum to do the weightlifting, but in the sense of not resting. So you're not taking breaks. You keep going, and your heart will pump when you're doing that circuit training. It's a great total body workout, and including your heart, not just your muscles. The next is called peripheral heart action. And peripheral heart action is very similar to circuit training. You'll see that circuit training and peripheral heart action, and the next one I'm going to talk about, all sound somewhat similar, just slight variations on each other. But peripheral heart action is 3 sort of towers of sets, if you want to call it that. Each one has 4 to 6 different exercises in it that you're going to do one set of probably 8 to 12 reps and very little rest in between. So here's where you see it sounding like a circuit. So in the first group, or the first tower, whatever you want to call it, you might do, I sort of said it before, you might do, biceps and then leg extension and tricep pull down and butterfly. So you might have, this set of 4 exercises. And you notice the order of the muscles that I talked about hitting. So you got the biceps first, then your triceps, then your chest with the butterfly, leg extensions, so your quads, and then the chest with the butterfly. Your next grouping is going to hit those same muscles in that same order, but with a different exercise. And again, in the third group, same muscles, same order, different exercise. So it's really a way of designing a circuit training approach. And you'd have 4 to 6 different exercises in each group, 8 to 12 reps, 65% of your maximum. You see the theme that we have going here. And again, that's called peripheral heart action. And it's right there in the name, that heart piece, because your heart will be going. It's little to no rest. Between each group, you put in about 30 seconds of rest. But you do the group, take 30 seconds, do the group, 30 seconds, do the group, 30 seconds. A circuit training, a more traditional circuit training, you would have one group. So that first group would really just be repeated for three times or 2 times or 4 times, however they've designed it. Peripheral heart action changes each time. So that's the nuance between them. The tri-set is about having 3 exercises that you do 3 times. So you have one group that's, let's pick 3 exercises, curling, lat pull downs, and leg extensions. So you're going to do in rapid succession, you do a circuit of those, take your 30 seconds, and then immediately do a circuit of those again, 30 seconds, circuit of those again. So it's this grouping into 3 groups of the same exercise. Again, it's just a different way of designing circuits. But those 3, circuit training is sort of the generalist overarching, and peripheral heart action and tri-sets are really just different flavors or design approaches for circuit training. So I've said a lot, but just really quickly in summation, you get your general ways to just go and lift weights is the single set, the multi-set, and the pyramid. I personally use pyramids. For those who are looking to bulk up more and bodybuild or put on mass, you're going to look at supersetting or split days. They can go together. You don't have to do one or the other. They both work together, and it's actually the way you want to do it. And then for those who are looking for that total body, bringing the cardio into it and having sort of probably a higher paced, faster, more intense workout without necessarily doing it by laying on a lot of weight, you've got circuit training and the 2 specific flavors of it with the peripheral heart action and the tri-sets. So we've got 8 different ways that you can design a weightlifting approach to help enlighten your body.